Thank you, Min, for your very generous introduction. And hi all, I'm Satoshi Araki from HKU. And I understand approaching the end of this whole session, you're very much exhausted. So I will try my best to make my presentation as quick but informative as possible. Let me start with a very brief review of the literature showing the importance of skills when it comes to socioeconomic outcomes. And the left figure is provided by the Professor Heckman, the Chicago economist, and illustrating the positive effect of cognitive ability and also non-cognitive ability on the log wages. And also the right-hand side figure is also provided by another economist, the Professor Hanushek from Stanford, and showing the positive relationship between the aggregate skills level in each society and also the economic growth rate. And in addition to these kind of the economic outcomes, so much research shows the positive impact of skills on non-economic outcomes, like the positive relationship between skills and health-related outcomes. And actually, the right-hand side, so this is from my own publication, and in which around 40 countries are plotted based on two indicators. And x-axis is, as with the Professor Hanushek's work, the aggregate skills level, and y-axis is the average happiness level. And I wouldn't say this is causal relationship, but we can see very clear positive relationship between this, except one outlier at the very bottom right. So in this country, the skills level is very high, but happiness level is very low. I'm not sure if you can see which country this is, but this is JP, Japan, my home country. So actually one of my ongoing projects is to figure out why Japanese people are very unhappy despite very high level of skills and also other attractive features. But unfortunately, this is not today's topic. So I just wanted to sell one of my ongoing projects. And actually, so we can summarize the potential outcome of skill, something like this. So skill consists of like cognitive, non-cognitive, and occupation-specific skills. And these are the dimensions expected to contribute to like OWB, objective well-being, including occupation, income, health, family, social relationships, and that may lead to higher subjective well-being like happiness. And based on this kind of evidence, so these days skills development becomes one of the central policy agendas worldwide and led by the World Bank, OECD, and also in each society. And we can see the terms like reskilling, upskilling are the kind of the buzzword these days. So skills seem to be very much essential for our success in the future, but from the stratification perspective, as a sociologist, there are at least two important questions. And the first one is inequality in skills acquisition, so who are more or less likely to obtain valuable skills. And the second question is heterogeneous returns to skills. So can everyone actually enjoy equal outcomes if we obtain high skills? Is there any social structure that devalues skills among a certain group of people, whereas only the select community enjoys the return to skills? And I would call this potential social structure the skills trap. And if there is this kind of skills trap, and how does this structure vary across societies and why? And today's the presentation mainly focuses on this, the second question, heterogeneous returns to skills. And we should understand that the scope of skills and also returns are very much broad. And among them, so these days, economic studies, particularly led by the Professor Hanushek again, they are advocating that the cognitive skills are the very key to the monetary return across the world. But in my study, so casting it out on this kind of very positive notion, I want to ask this question: how does the wage return to high cognitive ability vary across individuals? So this is heterogeneous effect. And in terms of hypothesis, extending some prior research on heterogeneous returns to education, so which is quite related to skills, but a bit different thing, we can form two opposite the hypotheses. And the first one is positive selection, and the other one is negative selection. And if positive selection is operating, those who are more likely to obtain higher skills receive larger returns. And in this case, we can say that social inequality may be intensified by just naively promoting skills development policy, whereas if negative selection is operating, so those who are less likely to obtain high skills receive larger returns. And this way, social inequality may be mitigated by doing this kind of policy. So I analyzed the OECD PIAC data. This is, again, the same data set used by Professor Hanushek. And this is an international survey of adult skills in literacy and numeracy, and assessed with 0 to 500 low scores. And the questionnaire is also conducted in addition to cognitive assessment. And I analyzed the data for the US and also Japan. Actually, I originally conducted analysis only focusing on the US, but after submitting the abstract to the faculty office, I realized that the title of this conference includes Asia. So that's why I kind of added some analysis using the Japanese data as well. But as a result, I think the comparative the results can be provided, and it's very interesting, I would say. And analytic strategy includes the two approaches. And the first one is the PSM propensity score matching to examine the heterogeneous effect of high skills. And the second one is causal mediation analysis to see to what extent the total link between skills and earnings is mediated by occupational attainment. And high cognitive skills is used as a kind of treatment, and high skills is defined by the OECD as possessing 326 points out of 500. And I use this as a primary treatment variable, but obviously this is very much arbitrary threshold, so I conducted robustness checks using the continuous measure for the mean of literacy and numeracy. And outcome is log earnings, and the controls include age, gender, race, ethnicity, parental education, and respondents' own educational attainment. And mediator for causal mediation analysis is occupational status. And in terms of propensity score matching, and first I estimated the average treatment effect of high skills, and based on the very much straightforward the counterfactual framework in this formula, HS is high skills dummy, and Y1 and Y0 are potential outcomes given treatment, so which is high skills, and non-treatment are the non-high skills, and X confounders, and the propensity score is calculated by binary probability regression using covariates as predictors. And I need to say that this approach heavily relies on the strong ignorability assumptions, so conducted some sensitivity analysis. And actually, the results of this sensitivity analysis supports the robustness of the results I'm going to show. And then, in terms of heterogeneous effect, and first I conducted the matching smoothing method, proposed by Yushie around 10 years ago, and also developed by successors. And by this, we can see effective heterogeneity across a propensity score strata. And in addition to that, following recent the methodological discussions, I conducted subpopulation PSM. And in this approach, at first, the average treatment effect is calculated for each group and then compared. And as I mentioned, I conducted some robustness checks using the continuous skills measure. And the procedure is almost the same as before. And first estimate the average dose response using the generalized linear model. And the result was quite the same when I used the maximum likelihood approach. And apply subpopulation OLS with GPS. This is the generalized propensity score and continuous skills and confounders. So this is just a formula to calculate the potential outcomes, but just let me skip for now. And this is a framework for causal mediation analysis. This is very much straightforward again. The cognitive skills are used as treatment, and occupational status mediator, and log earnings as the outcome, and basic confounders are the same as propensity score matching approach. And this is again to just illustrate the counterfactual framework, and the first expression is for natural direct effect, and the second the expression is natural indirect effect via occupations. And the key question here is not just to calculate both the effects, and instead I analyzed the heterogeneity across the subpopulation groups such as gender and parental education. And here again, so I have to rely on some assumption of ignorability, so conducted some sensitivity analysis by diversifying the correlation between the errors of outcome the model as well as the mediator model. And this is, again, a very straightforward the estimation model for mediator and also outcome. And in the outcome model, the interaction between the high skills and also the mediator is included. And this is just a descriptive statistic, so let me skip for now. And this is a summary of probability regression to calculate propensity score. And just one thing I want to emphasize here is all the covariates show very substantial the signs. So in relation to the probability likelihood of possessing high skills. This is just a covariate balance between two groups with high skills and also without high skills, and before and after matching. And this shows very high quality of matching, I would say, because the bias is practically zero for all covariates after matching in both the US and Japanese data. This is another evidence showing a high quality and matching in terms of the density of propensity scores. And here comes one of the main results. So this shows the potential outcome in terms of log earnings with and without high skills. And this blue solid line is for the US. And for example, if you look at here, so in the US without high skills, potential outcome in terms of log earning is around 8.2, whereas with high skills, it's around 8.55, and the difference around 0.35. So this is considered to be the wage return to high skills in the US. And this is the statistically significant. But if you look at Japan, so the slope is very much kind of flat, and the difference is just 0.1, and this is not significant at all in terms of statistically. So the straightforward, if we kind of interpret this result very straightforward way, so we can expect higher log earnings by obtaining high skills in the US, whereas we can't expect that in Japan, unfortunately. And this is about a heterogeneous effect, first in the US, across propensity score, and y-axis is treatment effect. And it's very difficult to be very much conclusive whether this is positive or negative selection. Because if we compare, for example, low propensity and mid propensity, maybe we can say this is negative selection because those with very much low likelihood of obtaining high skills enjoy larger return, whereas mid propensity score do not enjoy necessarily very much large return. But if we compare mid and high propensity score strata, so this is more like a positive selection. Whereas in Japan, it's very much calm. So it's more like homogeneous effect because there is no very huge difference across propensity score strata. And this is the first approach to analyze the heterogeneous effect. And as I mentioned, I conducted population propensity score matching. And in the US, so this is the difference across gender. And the blue line is for men. Without high skills, it's around 8.1, whereas with high skills, it's around 8.8. So the difference is very huge. So the return to high skills is quite large among men in the US. But when it comes to women, so it's almost flat. So they can't necessarily expect the wage return, even though they possess high skills. At least when it comes to this average, the effect in both groups. Whereas in Japan, it's very much a homogeneous effect because slope is almost the same between men and also women. But actually, one finding we can see from here is the very much persistent gender inequality in earnings, even when we compare the men without high skills and women with high skills. There is huge the earning gap in Japan. So this is another the important agenda to explore more, I think. And this is the heterogeneous effect across parental education. And both groups with highly educated parent, and green dashed line is for those without a tertiary educated parent. And both groups enjoy the positive returns to high skills. But if we compare the slope, in this case, those without the tertiary educated parent enjoys larger return as compared to those with the highly educated parents. So this can be framed as like negative selection, only in this case. And in Japan, again, so we can't see very clear the return to high skills for both groups. This is a result based on the continuous skills the measure model. And basically, the implication is quite the same, gender-based positive selection, and men are enjoying the larger return as compared to women, whereas when it comes to parental education, the disadvantaged are actually gaining more from high skills. And this is the one result from causal mediation analysis. So because I tried to kind of decompose into direct effect of high skills on earnings and indirect effect mediated by the occupational outcome. So this is men and this is women. And indirect effect via occupation, we can't see a very clear difference between men and women, but direct effect, there is a significant difference between them. So actually, this is very surprising to me because I had anticipated that the indirect effect via occupation is very huge between men and women, but in reality, actually, it's direct effect. And this the structure is almost the same for the parental education. And actually, the structure becomes a little bit different when focusing on the younger generation, but for the sake of time, just let me skip. And in summary, so yeah, this is the summary of my findings. And first, the substantial contribution of high cognitive skills to earnings is confirmed in the US, but that's not the case in Japan. So explaining this cross-national difference is a very important agenda, I think. And actually, I have some hypotheses, but that if you're interested in discussing this kind of thing, let's do it in the following one. And the return to cognitive skills, when it comes to effect heterogeneity, it's U-shaped across PS strata in the US, consisting of both positive and negative selection based on gender and also parental education. So we may argue that skills trap is operating in a way that prevents women from leveraging their high skills. Whereas promoting skills development among the disadvantaged, particularly in terms of the less educated parent, and might be the kind of contributing to mitigating social inequality. And in the US, the effect heterogeneity is attributed to direct effects in this model, but I think it's very important to analyze more if this direct effect is actually direct or this is because of other hidden mediators. So this is another task I think I want to do. So I think so this can be developed by, for example, diversifying measures for skills, outcome mediators, and covariates, and also extending analytic approaches and also models, including machine learning and longitudinal approaches, plus the double heterogeneity. So this is a kind of new concept and technique I'm trying to sell by combining the propensity score matching and also UQR, the unconditional quantile regression. And actually, I submitted the co-authored paper, including this around 4 months ago, so in November the last year. And actually, I wanted to say that this paper was published or accepted, or at least under R&R. And when I checked the status of this paper this morning, it's still reviewer selection. So if any of you were approached by the journal, I don't think I should name which journal it is. And please accept that invitation and review. And I'm very much happy to hear even the negative and the kind of critical comments. Yeah, so this way, my ambition is to kind of develop comparative mixed methods research on heterogeneous returns to skills. So thank you very much.